What is up, everybody? Lyle, no hippie trucking transportation. Just want to see if anybody's actually out here able to watch this stuff. I've been thinking about this shit all morning long. Diabetic trucker, what's going on? Man, we're going to be talking about the civil war that's going on in trucking. What's up, JJR? Trucker Q, what's up? Shamarcus, what's up? Gene Scott, yeah, I am doing a little bit better today. It got a little bit better last night when I showed up about 4 hours early and that load was ready. So anyway, I'm headed to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Last load. Damn, am I freezing up? I might have to do this later if I'm freezing up. Hey, let me know if I'm freezing up. All right, so anyway. Damn, what do I want to talk about before I get into this topic? So, slime pack. So I picked up at this General Mills, man, and this load is loaded so weird. I'm in the 17th hole and barely legal. And that's trusting the trailer. You know what I'm saying? I figured I was as close to 34 on the front as I could get, so I should be all right. But this is like the second time in 2 weeks I've been back between the 16th and 17th hole. All right, so anyway, let's talk about this trucker civil war that's going on. And how I got dragged into this shit, I have no fucking clue. This whole bullshit between company drivers and lease drivers and who makes the most money and owner operators and all this stuff, this shit is so embarrassing. Like, I was thinking about this today. I was like, you know what? If I was in my old profession, I just can't see this shit happening. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, in mortgages, you have like, you know, mortgage bankers that work for direct lenders like I did. Not necessarily a bank, but they lend their own money. You have mortgage brokers. They, you know, use somebody else's money to fund their loans. You got people that work at banks. You know, you have all these different, you know, at the company I work for, you had inside sales where, you know, let's consider that like a company driver where they made less per loan, but they got marketing, you know, and all these different kind of stuff that we would pay for and stuff like that. And then we had outside sales where you weren't tied to any schedule. You got no marketing budget. You had to handle all that on your own, but you got paid more. I can't even imagine a day when anybody in that field would be sitting here having these dumbass conversations that are going on about who's making more money. I mean, this shit is so ridiculous. Like, if you want to have a conversation with me about what you're doing with your money, I'm all ears about that. I love talking about shit like that. And I like to see what other people might be doing on that. But who makes more money and who's smarter and, you know, all this shit. I mean, that is the dumbest shit ever. It's embarrassing that we're even having this shit. You know what I mean? And another stuff I got to talk about, because this is really what pissed me off. Yesterday, somebody's like messaging me and they're like, you know, how do you feel having people come over to Prime and lease and only make this much money? And, you know, I'm just like, first of all, I've always said most people that are leasing need to be going company anyway. The majority of people in leases, whether it's doesn't matter what the company, should probably be a company driver to begin with. Why? Because most people don't come out of an environment that would foster that kind of mentality. You have to kind of learn it on your own. But this whole thing, it's incredible. And I was accused of, like, first of all, anybody that clearly has ever heard me say anything about use my referral code. Now I'm gonna start doing that shit. I'm gonna start doing it. Why? Because I've been around long enough to where it's legitimate for me to do it. I'm not one of these guys that's been at a place, 4 months or less and already talking about how great the company is and all that kind of stuff. But I got accused of that. And I'm like, I've never even said that. I've never said leasing was better. So how I got dragged into this? I mean, at some point, with all these stray bullets coming my way, I just felt like I needed to at least, say some shit. But there are people that clearly haven't watched my channel that are sitting here trying to talk about what I'm saying. I've never, ever, ever said it was about the money. I've always said it's about what you do with the money. And I was originally going to go company driver. Then this girl who was going back and forth, I finally had to block her ass. She was like, well, apparently you're, how did she put it? So you're making my point for me. The reason you were going to go company was because, your company drivers make more money. I said, I never said that. That really never was the point. So I'm sitting here having to defend all these fucking positions that I've never taken in the first place. So, I'm just like, I'm just fucking tired of even having these, like, mindless conversations about who makes the most money, who works for the best company. One thing I've said is I could beat any company. And I'm a grind. So I'm not, I don't know. This shit is pissing me off, really. And like I said, one of the things I see wrong in general, it could be, we could look at the government shutdown. Some of these guys were making like some serious money. Government shut down 1 month and now people are panicking. Why? Because it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with the money you make and the bullshit you spend your money on. Now, I've never said I made the most money or, that was ever the goal or none of that stuff. And how I get drug into it, I have no idea. But like I said, if any of these people wanted to have a conversation about what they're doing with their money and all that kind of stuff, I'd be more than happy to have those conversations. Not in a attacking kind of a way, but from a curiosity standpoint. Like, what? Maybe I'm missing out on some other stuff. You know what I mean? Hold on a second. So anyway, that's kind of been what I've been thinking about. That shit my whole drive this morning was these dumbass conversations that have been going back and forth between all these different channels and then comment sections and everything like that. All right, let's see. Let me go through this. Are you in a 389 or 379? No, I'm in the baby boy. I'm in the 5. Damn, now I can't remember what I'm in. Peterbilt 579. Yeah. Golden Boy Expert, what's up? Vincent, what's going on? All right. 1824, you went lease for the home time, not the money, which is understandable. Yeah, I just ended up tripping into the money. And for me, this is the perfect route. A lot of things that happen in life happen accidentally. This is what works for me, especially at this point I'm in right now. Yesterday I was down and somebody was talking about taking some of these vitamins and stuff like that. Let me tell you what I got. I'll be taking some multivitamins right there. Got some beetroot shit right there. Got that niacin right there. This turmeric and some other shit that I can't pronounce, and garlic. Magnesium, calcium, and zinc. And this is what I need to get my wife on when I get home if her ass is still sick. Get up on some of that oregano oil right there. So anyway, that's off topic, but yeah, I was just amazed that people were saying that I was promoting a lease at Prime. Anybody that's watched my channel knows that I've always, since day one, I've always said most people that are getting into leases should go company. If not in general, but for a long time while they tune their skills in or whatever it is. So yeah, Shamarcus is there. He got dragged into it. Now we're, sitting here having to prove some shit that really shouldn't even have to be proved is ridiculous. And I had this girl trying to tell me how much money I was making and wasn't making. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with fucking showing people shit and all that kind of stuff. You know what? I don't care. Really, it's irrelevant. All right, Wendell, we should learn to live together, love each other, and help. Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of good companies out there. You know what I'm saying? I just happen to fall into some stuff that it really suits not only me financially as much as it does psychologically and all that kind of stuff. But there were times, Prime trips out every now and then, so I might be looking and seeing what else is out there. Before long time ago, I'd already looked into. Obviously, I wouldn't have been looking into company driver and all that kind of stuff, but like national carriers, like some of these. So there's a ton of places that I've already looked at and said, you know what, these are some decent places. Let me keep that in my back pocket just in case. And then when I start winding it down in my career, maybe I end up going company for that last little bit just to lower my risk and liabilities. So I think that there's an agenda out here where everybody has to feel like they're right for doing what they do. And there's a right way for each individual person. You know what I mean? So anyway, those of you guys just came in, I don't even think I said where I was at. I'm in Oak Grove, Missouri, and I am at the Quick Trip across the street from the Petro over there. I'm taking my last load home to Cheyenne, Wyoming. One of the good things about talking to people, because I try to keep an eye on weather, but you can sometimes only keep an eye on it so much. Talk to my boy Henry. Anyway, some of you guys know him as Big H Truck, and he hasn't been putting out videos in a while. Have him start putting out some more videos. We were talking, and he's like, bro, in his Jersey accent, you should just stay on 70. They're supposed to be getting hit up on 80. And I looked at it, and they're getting hit a little bit right now, but by the time I leave, it might be over with. But who knows what the roads are going to be looking like if the snow melted and all that. So I'm just going to take the expensive route, 70, hit them tolls outside of Kansas City. And depending on how I feel, I might take the tolls around Denver just to do it, or else I may not. But anyway, that's what's up right now. All right, Jeremy Griggs, the $1,500 a month that they're talking about is all trucks. It's not our lease operators that work, full weeks or whatever, make $1,500 actually a week or whatever. That's averaging all trucks, sitting trucks, trucks that aren't sitting, trucks that are in the shop, all that kind of stuff. I'm not even gonna get into my money and shit like that. I am so fucking tired of talking about my money, but there was never a time when I was out working and made $1,500 a month as an average for the time I was out there. All right, Rich's River Smoker's been watching me for years, and you're always no cap. Appreciate that. Somebody's calling me a fool. Just joking, Ed. Just spoke with Ed this morning. He just got off of home time. He's in a regular lease at Prime. I thought I was going to be able to save him and get him in that lease purchase, but he went ahead and did another regular lease. But he's been at home for 3 weeks. And he was about to take more time off, actually. He's like, I got the money. You know what I mean? So, and the reason Ed, if you're looking at the comments, said fool, is Ed's been watching me for a long time, and we ran into each other last time I delivered in Denver. And, just a regular old white 50-year-old dude, but he says fool more than a Mexican. So that's why he's saying fool right there. I've been watching. All right. What do I think about Chicago lease companies? I don't know. I do think that there are certain leases out there that may be predatory. I don't think that I can't speak on them because I've never worked there, so I don't know. Their track record is not good, so that's all I can go by. But somebody's over there making it. You know what I mean? Slowpoke trucking. Like Bobby Brown said, I made this money. You didn't. Absolutely. Toll around Denver is ridiculous. I know. I live in Denver. But sometimes when you're trying to go home, man, you're just trying to get the least stressful route. It depends on what time I'm coming into Denver. Now, it is going to be Sunday morning, unless I slack and sleep in. Because I'm not in no hurry to get out there. I can deliver Monday midnight to midnight. But I'm not gonna get there in the middle of the night. I'm gonna get there like 8, 9 in the morning with the sun all up and everything. But yeah, that toll is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I live on the border of that toll, further south. And that's one thing I've preached to my wife. Do not take that damn toll. I-70 used to be a free road all the way to Pennsylvania. Yeah. Or Baltimore. Okay. Greetings from Sweden. What's going on, Sweden? Just popping up random people's stream to say hi and hopefully spread the joy. Well, I appreciate it, man. It's always good seeing people from other countries up in here. My lease payout was $15K, but it's a scam. Yeah, Rich's River Smokers. He just did a lease, completed it, got paid. Is that your second lease completion? I thought you might have done a short-term lease the first time. Anyway, he just paid off or completed another lease, got paid $15,000 for his lease completion. Here's one thing I will say. I don't think that buying out a regular lease at Prime makes financial sense. That's one thing I will say. But somebody may find the benefit in it. I can't see making those payments for 3 years and then buying it out for 60 or 80 or whatever the money would be. So I don't know, but Rosie's frozen, man. I don't want any part of no snow. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna try to limit my exposure to the snow this winter. I'm gonna be home. I'm gonna get home on the 8th. I don't plan on leaving back out until maybe the 4th or 5th the next month. I might do 3 weeks, turn back around, come back and do another week. at home and then come back out. It depends on what the weather is. I'm not fucking with these people in this weather. All right, does Prime Inc. hire drivers again if they were fired? I don't know what their hiring practices are. Sometimes it just seems like they have no standards as to what they're looking for in drivers. Winter definitely sucks. My brother starved to death work. Jeremy, some people are just not going to make it. I'm just going to tell you. Sometimes it's just luck. And I'll be the first one to tell you. I got a good fleet man. You know, I'm not even sure if it's my fleet manager in general. I got a good small business unit, if you want to call it that. I stepped into this lease with enough money to where I wasn't going to have to worry about. Now, first of all, I've never put any of my own money into any of this shit. Even when I was bleeding money, running multiple trucks, and we'll get into that in a second. Bleeding money through some of that, I never dug into my own personal money. All the money that was put into it was all money that came into the business. We'll talk about this in a second, because here's where we can kind of differentiate some of this stuff. But I had that money as a backdrop, so even though I never wanted to get into my personal money, it made me feel comfortable knowing that if I had to, I could just basically, I could just basically put that money on the table and then just, bail me out of whatever I could have got into. Rather than doing that, I did get a line of credit that I'd never really used. I used every now and then just to keep it active, but I did do that just because it was getting to that point where it was a little crazy. And people, somebody was like, how many, I forgot who somebody said they just watched a video and somebody was saying, oh, this lease driver didn't get paid for like a month or something like that. When I had a fleet going, there was a good 3 fucking months when I didn't get paid. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was set up for that before I got into it. It was never going to be a long-term problem. I could have always just, I could have always brought my financial, my personal money to bear on the situation and be okay. But, yeah, 3 months, good, good 3 months when everything was going wrong. So we could talk about what I saw. Because you have people say, it could be somebody that's struggling at Prime that says, why, what am I doing wrong? Or it could be me having conversations with certain people at Prime, like, I don't see where people are making this mistake. When you're running 4 fucking trucks and you can see what all 4 trucks are doing, listen, there's a difference between the way people run their trucks. Everybody's a runner. If they don't know what a runner is, everybody's a runner. And I can honestly say I was able to look at 4 different trucks and see kind of who was really running and who wasn't. And it wasn't like I didn't think anybody didn't think they were running. I just think there was definitely a difference between some of the way that some of those trucks ran. So, man, Jeremy, what happened to $1 Million Man? I need to call him. I haven't talked to him in a while. And I was just thinking about this probably 2 days ago. But yeah, I don't know. Dion, careful with gang stalkers, or you must be talking about old dirty trucking. The personal money is just insurance. Home is taken care of if something's wrong. Yeah. And that's one thing when I keep telling people I don't think that everybody needs to be leasing, which I don't know how anybody was saying that I'm promoting a prime lease, because I've never done it. I've actually said the opposite of that. But some people are going to survive even if they come into a lease with very little or no money. The chances of people making it, if they have a decent nest egg or something like that to get you through some of the lean times or whatever, that's what I think is preferable. And again, even then, I think that most people, a company position is probably the way to go. I've never changed. I've always said that, at least at the beginning. Not necessarily forever, but you have to have a different mentality to do it. And there are certain phrases that people say that make me understand that maybe they aren't quite ready to do that. All right, all right, we already got through that. I watched the weekly safety video. Those crashes look crazy. Lord have mercy. Listen, some of those crashes were just absolutely stupid. Like, what about the one guy? I felt sorry for the guy that pulled over to the left-hand lane when the emergency vehicle or whatever was on the right, because I don't think had that been going on that he would have went out of control. But the one that was passing up the other driver, listen, if it's snow and you have somebody slow in front of you, I'm just sitting back and, I'm sitting back and relaxing. Another thing I noticed is, I've said this in videos before, sometimes you need to see what's going on with the indigenous population that live in a certain area. What happened to me one time is I'm driving through Wisconsin and it doesn't look bad, but I'm kind of going fast and not really kind of knowing how icy it might be. And I'm passing up all these cars, and then all of a sudden something hit my mind. I was like, these guys probably live here, and if they're driving slow, maybe that's a sign for me to slow the fuck down. But if I'm seeing all these trucks and ditches and stuff like that, that's the first sign that maybe I shouldn't be there. So one of the guys that crashed drove by like all these trucks that were in the ditches and shit like that. Like, didn't anything go through that driver's head? Like, maybe I should shut down too. And then there was another one. I don't remember. I'm not playing with these people. You know what I'm saying? It would almost, and I'm not saying I would take more chances, but when you know that they ain't got your back, like, there is no excuse. Like, it's easy for our safety department or fleet manager or whatever, just say, you know what, just pull over, shut it down. What if you can't get there? Like, nobody wants to drive in this shit a lot of times. A lot of times they're just trying to get to a place to park. But they act like as soon as you get in bad weather, you can shut it down. But I'm not playing with these people. As soon as I even think it's going to be bad weather, I'm shutting it down because they ain't got nobody's back. I'm keeping that as real as I can. There's no excuse good enough. Prime Inc. is one of the only companies who a non-experienced driver straight out of training can get into a lease, so Prime still remains one of the best companies for new and old drivers. You know, there was a time, I was talking to a guy that had been at Prime for like 35 years or something. This was like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. A black dude, red Peterbilt, and he was talking about the old days, like back when Rob Lowe's mom was there and starting the flatbed department, doing all this stuff. And he was saying you could not go straight lease. You had to actually like team with somebody for a while and like learn, like it. You had to go through something to lease. And I do think that whether it's Prime or whoever, I'm just speaking the company I work with, they turn people that want to become truck drivers into accidental business owners. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the average 24-year-old or 22-year-old or, whatever, gets into trucking and thinks, you know what, I'm gonna own a business or have a business or whatever. It just happens to be the way that it's done a lot of the time. So people end up stumbling into it with a lot of not mental, but a lot of immaturity, and not immature for their age, just immature in life. Like, how mature can you be at 22 years old? You know what I mean? Or 24 for that matter. So, not enough experience in life. And you throw them into this hectic shit where you have to think about a lot of different things and take accountability. Like, you may have never had to take accountability for anything before. I don't know. I do think that there should be, I think there should be a period of time that you have to go company before you go lease, in my opinion. Good afternoon, fellow Prime driver Holland to Denver on I-70 westbound. Big Andy, I'm going to Cheyenne. I was gonna take 70 to 435 to 29 or whatever, and then go up to 2 and take 2 to 80 and kind of go that way. But I saw that. Well, actually, my boy Big H Trucking told me about the weather up in along 80. It should be done by then, but I don't want the remnants. So he's like, bro, just stay south on 70. Should be clear down there. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna take 70 to 25 to 80. Afro, what's up? I'm just out here chilling. Got my last drop before I go home. If it was not winter, I would probably stay out another week because my wife is sick. And the last thing I want to do is fuck around and get sick when I go home. So I may go home. And some of you guys that watch channel, there's a lady that I used to work with. She's like older at this point. She's like, fuck, I don't know how old she is. Mid-70s, 70. Anyway, I told her I was going to go buy some more of her artwork because she's having some financial issues right now. So I might go over to her house and spend a night there while my wife gets her COVID or whatever it is under control. Earl, what's up? What's good from SAC? Speedy healing for your wife. Man, I hope so. That's the last thing I want to do is go home and catch that shit. I hear you. I drove on a mini fleet for 3 years and bought my own truck. I got some experience that way. I think a lot of times what people don't realize, at least I could say this from people that work on mine, is they just don't understand. Like, it's not just 10 hours. Like, sometimes it was like, I'm going to drop this load, have a full clock damn near. I'm going to just take 10 hours, do this. And it's like, 10 hours is never just 10 hours. 10 hours is going to turn into 14 hours. And, you know, I was bleeding money. And then when I figured out a way that I was like, okay, I could do this and it would be like automatic. And then I just thought about the headaches. I don't know how Shamarcus does this shit, but filling out 4 expense reports, doing all this shit, keeping track, man. I had trucks going down and paying for hotel rooms and downtime and all this shit. And it was never my truck. I was never able to go chill out in Louisville for 3 or 4 days while my truck's in the shop. I was never able to go chill out in Laredo while my truck's down for a week or whatever. That never happened to my truck. And I'm not saying it was their fault. I'm just saying it never worked out that way. Biggest mistake. Well, that is a lifelong mistake right there. All right, Tucker Q. Hey, Big Andy. It's Q. I talked to you the other day when we were doing our physicals at Springfield. Life experiences. That's what we'll learn. Life experience is everything, man. Because I know I would not have the mental maturity to do this shit in my 20s. I just wouldn't have been able to. Actually, somebody sent me a message that was probably the best message I've had ever. It wasn't about trucking. It wasn't about none of that shit. They're like, how did you get into trucking? I was like, you know what? I really want to do that video because I've spoke on it a little bit, but I didn't speak about like the nuances and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. I am tired of fucking talking about trucking. As a matter of fact, I was about to shut this channel down the way this whole trucking community has been going, or at least put it on pause for a while, because this is embarrassing. It is literally embarrassing. Not all of these channels, like Trucker, man, I just know her as Tammy. Tammy's got a channel where that doesn't come up. Slime Pack, you know, some other people, but all this other shit, man, it's just, and it really grated on me yesterday because I was not in the best mood either. So as soon as I got to the 11th comment where this girl was like trying to call me a liar so many times, I just had to block her fucking ass. I was like, I'm done. And the one thing I can say about trucking, because I wouldn't say that anybody was, so if you took all the drivers I had, none of them were doing anything I don't think that the normal lease driver wouldn't do. There's just one, and those of you guys have been with me, you know, Myra, that was like that. If we basically mirrored each other as far as how we ran, and I think that's a lot different than what some people do. I don't know. Because it was consistent. It was like you could look at the numbers every week and be like, here's how the numbers are. And it was just like in mortgages. You look at the leaderboard and the people that were number 1, 2, and 3, or, you know, whatever, last month are probably going to be the ones every other month, with the exception of a few different times. Let's see. Wendell, I think you mean Chase and Andrew Jackson versus Trucker B. Listen. Trucker B is funny, but there's just too much clickbait for me to be watching that shit. But Andrew, I can't do it. I just can't. Like, my thing, and I've said it before, if you want to impress me, don't impress me with buying old. It doesn't matter. However you get there in trucking doesn't matter to me. Whether you buy new trucks, lease trucks, do whatever, it's, you want to impress me, tell me what you're doing with your money beyond trucking. Like, that's what's important to me. That's what I'd like to learn. Don't be telling me you made $45,000 last month, and then I don't care about that. What I care about is what you're doing with that money. And I could talk to somebody all day about that. Riches River Smokers, mofos say they're a runner until it's time to do runner shit. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I know that Rich is a runner because I know that when he was training with the runner that I had, they were always trying to push loads in early and do all that kind of stuff. So the difference, you know, we used to always say in the sales industry and shit like that, is the difference between the first horse that makes $4 million and the last horse at the Kentucky Derby is like maybe a second and a half. And that's the difference in trucking. So the difference between people that always do consistently well, whether it's at Prime, Hellwig, CR England, CRST, whoever, isn't they're doing so much better on a macro scale. It's a micro scale. It might only be 2 loads a month that they get off early. Or it might be that one time when they, instead of doing this little bullshit, I'm driving 8 hours and shutting down, it's like, they get a load out there early, so they're delivering with the full clock, and boom, they get another load that's, maybe not the same load they would have got if they'd have delivered with half a clock. It's like little things like that's the difference between people that are doing well and people that aren't. It's not this big, huge difference. All right, Shamarcus, I'm tired of hearing it. I'm going to start a fishing or cooking YouTube channel. Man, I'm telling you, I'm getting tired of it too. Cooking YouTube channel, man, I'm telling you, it's passed me by right now because all these channels have kind of got better and better and better throughout, the time. But there was a little bit of drama in the cooking channel, in the cooking space. Not the same as this shit. A lot of it was, people saying that other people were endorsing shit that they didn't believe in, or whatever like that. There was some of that going on, but it certainly wasn't to this degree. And really, once you got to a certain level, channels weren't even, these were the lower end channels, maybe $10,000 to $50,000 maybe subscribers. $62.82. Let's say thanks for what you do. Trucking ain't no joke. Did it for years. Man, this is the least stressful job I've ever had, though. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks for if old school truck drivers, I couldn't have done it back in the day. I could not have done it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe even the early 2000s. I don't know, but people that went through all that, like, what do you do at a truck stop when you ain't got no Facebook, YouTube? Like, now you gotta, I know what you do, because I used to go to truck stops when my boy came to town, and everybody be sitting in there watching this big screen TV. So truck stops used to be, at least when I would go visit him, more social. Like, truck stops were packed. So you had to do that because, what are you going to do? Read a book? I think he had one of them old ass TVs in his truck, like the big black and white looking one that was about like that big. Phone booths everywhere. I still remember seeing that. Have a question. What and why you got into trucking? Is a person 60 should be in trucking? All right, wait, what? I have a question. What and why did I get into trucking? Is a person 60 should be in trucking? I'm assuming the question is why I got into trucking, and actually I'm going to do a video on that when I get home. In short, is this. I burn out too quick in the mortgage industry. That is a very stressful industry. It's stressful when you're making a ton of money. It's probably even more stressful when you're making a ton of money, because you have a ton of shit going on than it is, or else you're not, maybe you're not doing that good. So there's always this stress. And I just looked ahead and I was like, there's no way I could do this, like, for another however long. So I got out of that and came into trucking. There's a little bit more into that, and I'm going to do the video on that one. But yeah, that's why I got into trucking. And to be honest with you, one of my biggest regrets, not going to college, because there are plenty of opportunities that I could have had I had a degree. And that was before even the mortgage industry, after, whatever. So that's been a regret of mine. All right, Bernard D, the trucker, what's going on, man? I cannot wait to get home, Bernard. I'm gonna be chilling so hard. Like, I don't even think I'm gonna get out of bed for like a good 2 days. Well, I don't know. Like I said, my wife is sick, so I might go over to my friend's house and hang out for like a good day or something. I don't know. All right, Richards River Smoker, when you surround yourself with successful people, you will be successful. They always say, they said it, any sales course you go to, you're the sum of your 5 friends or the 5 people that you hang around the most. And a lot of times those people bring you up and push you to a certain degree. And, it's done that for me. Not in trucking in trucking it has, but before even trucking, all that kind of stuff, I look at the people that I went to high school with, or, well, not even my best friends since we were like the 70s, late 70s and shit like that. I'm out here trying to not compare, but these, my best friend is a bond salesman. So basically what that would be, I don't know if it's called a bond sales, it's insurance. So let's say that you're doing a highway project and you're fixing some shit or you're doing some construction. He sells the performance bond. So a company needs to buy a bond to do this project, and if it goes over budget or goes over time or whatever, this bond pays out. So he sells those bonds. And so I'm like trying to like level up to, and this is a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? And then, one of my other boys is a high school principal. One of my other boys, attorney, or not attorney, a judge. Personal banker, former drug dealer, and just sold their restaurant for like $3 million. So these are all the people that I'm kind of, and there's probably other people I'm just forgetting, plus all the people I was in the mortgage industry with. So you always have this pressure to keep up. And I never tried to keep up as far as, well, maybe earlier on, from like cars and this and that. It was just always, where am I at? How much money do I got? Do I got investments here? Am I going to be okay? And I don't necessarily need to be rich when I retire. I just got to have enough money to do what I got to do and all that kind of stuff. And it's those, had I not had that direction, or those people look at and kind of calibrate myself every now and then, I probably wouldn't have shit, to be honest with you. So yeah, you are your 5 best friends, or 5 people you hang around with the most. And here's what's funny is this person that was saying, I was talking people into coming to Prime to do a lease where they ain't making no money. I just spoke with Richards River Smoker the other day. He's doing well. I talked to Tammy. She's on here. She's fucking doing well. I don't know if Jesse's in here or not. Jesse's doing well. Ed's doing well. There are very few people that I talk to that aren't doing well. And I'm just saying that Prime. Now, I talk to other people outside of Prime that are doing well also. But what I don't have time for is people that are doing the blame game. I can't do that one. Now, I can try to, because I do feel like I got a little wisdom to pass on. So I try to do that. But if that continues to be the conversation, then I can't fall into that one. JJR regrets using his Montgomery GI Bill. Man, me too. And it was just the reason I never used it was when I got out of the military, I started selling cars. And selling cars is kind of like being a truck driver. You're really, at least at that time, I don't know about now, you're really making more money than you should be making, right? So At that time, I was young, doing a bunch of stupid shit, buying motorcycles, fucking cars, all this shit. And I wasn't like, never want, I was like, why do I need to go to college? And then after a while, that stuff catches up with you. And you're just like, okay, man. Anyway, I'm going to get into all this in another video because it's pretty interesting how I got into trucking and kind of the direction that led me there. I am going to be laying on bed like I'm on life support. Like I said, I don't know. If my wife's going to be sick, maybe I won't want to be right there getting sick myself. Bro, you need an edge. Looks like you've been running yourself raggedy. Man, I'm telling you, all I'm going to do when I get home is just shave it all bald, man. I'm beyond worrying about edges and all that kind of stuff, man. My ramen noodles got dust on them. I remember that video. Yep. Now you collecting assets. You know what? I try to live as frugally as possible. So, and again, the Civil War, who's doing the best? What's the best route to go? Company or lease? Lease drivers are losing. Company drivers are winning. Owner operators winning. All this kind of shit. You know what? None of that fucking matters if you ain't doing shit with it, right? So, and not saying that anybody does or doesn't, but this shouldn't even be a conversation. That's where I'm. Fuck, I forgot my damn point. But anyway, I'm living frugally so I can put some money aside, and nobody knows how long they're gonna live. I mean, I've had like 2 people in high school that were like in great shape, just died. Like one died a couple years ago, one just died. So you never fucking know, right? So it's hard to push. This is the problem with a lot of young people. They think they're gonna live forever, so they never start it. And then sometimes when people get older, they're like, well, why am I going to save now? It's a different kind of motivation. Now, I never really wanted to think about this, but it's like, okay, if I save now, and if worse comes to worse, then I'll be able to like pass some shit on or something like that. But yeah. All right, let's see. Slowpoke made good money because River Rich told me to make good money. There you go. Did that turkey like your video showed that came out gases, fam, like that shit? Man, type that shit again. I don't know what you were saying on that range. You did a great job so far. You will certainly drink whiskey. Man, I cannot wait to get home and get on some fucking whiskey. And the funny thing about it is, like, when I first go home after being out on the road, boy, that whiskey hits a little different, you know what I mean? So I don't know if I want to do a live as soon as I get home with the whiskey, or if I want to let it kind of settle into my system a little bit. But yeah, that whiskey, it definitely hits different when I get home. Myth Leather Company, how much money you make, how much money you keep. Absolutely. And this took a big change, because back when I was younger, it was all about I didn't have, let's just basically call it, I had a Saline Mustang. You guys that are old enough know what that was. I had the Suzuki GSXR 750, all the different kind of clothes, and going out to clubs like, back in that era, you know what I mean? But now I pride myself by, last time I was home, I bought a $7,000, whatever, how much it was, because my truck had to go. I bought me like a little cheap ass, Audi wagon. You know what I mean? Soccer momming it up. I could have bought anything. You know what I mean? I could have literally bought whatever I wanted. Maybe not $1 million, $500,000 cars, but but that's what makes me proud. And then when I look across the street and see this old dude that lives there or lives across the street from me, he's driving around the same old ass like PT Cruiser, and maybe he has a older truck. I don't know, but it's like I look at those people and I'm like, that's how you do it. You don't have all this fucking debt. All right. 855, if I may ask you, what are your thoughts on Gypsy Crusader? I don't know what that is. Bringing in $3,000 to $4,000 a week and spending $2,900, $3,900 a week is not winning. And that's a lot of what you see out here. Listen, I know a lot of people at Prime that were trainers, and I know this because their students told me about it, where their trainer was making $5,000, $6,000 a week and stressing about money because they were paying child support or alimony, had a Harley, and all kinds of other reckless shit. So, definitely. Myth Leather Company guys get into this with no bankroll is a quick recipe for failure. And I'm going to second that. Again, those of you guys just came in. I was accused of like promoting the Prime Inc. lease and it's a bad lease and all this kind of stuff. Now, you can think what you want to think about the Prime Inc. lease, but I've never promoted the lease. I've always said go company first. Always. But people pick and choose what they want to say. Because especially if you're younger. I mean, I think I took this slower than people that were younger than me that should be the ones taking it slower because they got so much time. But the older I got, the more I became this like measure twice, cut once type of a person. So when I came into trucking, it was like, okay, I'm going through training. I spent all those months in training, way past longer than I should have been in training. Why? Because I don't like that feeling of not being in control or knowing what I want to do and all that kind of stuff. So I took stuff extremely slow. In some cases, it kind of hurt me, but it never, not hurt me, but put me back maybe a little bit further. But I'd rather be that than the guy that comes in, with no money and then makes money. Here's the kicker. No money. So they get into trucking. I don't know what their job could have been before that. And then they make some money. And then they go out and start buying dumb shit. And then they go home. Then they come off of home time. Then their truck breaks down. And then what some people are going to say is, that's the reason to go company. Well, no, that could or could not be the reason to go company. That's the reason you fucking are responsible with your money and don't spend everything you have. It's a business. That's the difference. Businesses aren't supposed to spend 100% or even 80% or 70% of their capital. Some of that needs to be held back. And I have somebody, this is what pissed me off. Sometimes I do get a little competitive and a little cocky. But I got people in here challenging how much money I make that don't even have enough money in none of their accounts as much as I just have just chilling in an account. And that's when I start feeling like I'm getting clowned, is when I got somebody that's not anywhere in the stratosphere trying to tell me what I'm doing right or doing wrong. That pisses me off. And that's how I got drug into this bullshit, this little trucking civil war that's going on. All right. All right. Range did my turkey just like your video, and the family liked it. That shit came out good as fuck. Listen, if you're making a turkey, I'm gonna tell you, this is just pure physics. And when I first learned about this technique, it's the same thing as frying a turkey, the same concept, right? because cooking a turkey in oil is, even though it's in oil, it's technically a dry. It's a dry cook is what they really call it. So my thing when I was cooking turkeys, and somebody told me about it, if you cook a turkey at 450 degrees, it's gonna cook so fast that it's not gonna be able to get dry. So that was my concept on that. If it's the turkey I'm thinking about, but I've done them a bunch of different ways. How many miles have you run so far this year? I don't even keep track. I don't keep. Listen, here's one thing about me. I never look at the money on a load. As a matter of fact, I don't even see it until the load is dispatched. So when those you guys at Prime, when they send me a proposed load, I don't even see the money. I don't even judge it on the money. I don't look at the miles. I don't look at anything. I look at is where I'm picking up and where I'm going some bullshit. I don't really turn down that many loads, but if there's some loads going somewhere I don't want, then I don't have any problem turning it down. And I've had my fleet manager mockingly talk to me and say, okay, I'll turn down this $4,000 or I'll turn down this $1,400 or 1,400 mile, $4,500 load going to New Jersey. And all I got to say is, thanks, I appreciate it. Because to me, low stress is worth less than the money. And it seems like it works out. It seems like it always works out. Now, this run, I'm going to be honest with you. This last month, I came out of home time I came out on the 26th of last month, maybe the 27th. And it hasn't been a great, I mean, every week is great when the truck's paid off, right? But as far as normal numbers go, this last week I just had was the only week that was what I'm used to seeing. And then this next one is going to be in that ballpark. But the other 4 weeks or however many weeks has been less than average. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't whine about it. I looked at it and I said, you know what? I really haven't gone to no bullshit. I mean, the closest I got was I went to Connecticut one time, and that wasn't even all that horrible. It's been a low stress month. I've got a chance to relax. I must have had like a few loads with over 24 hours on them where I got a chance to relax. So to me, that's a win. So I don't really look at the miles. I do know that my baby right here, she's going to get to sit down for about a month or close to a month. So we're not going to be putting any miles on her. I'm going to get another oil change. I might get another air dryer cartridge on it just because it's cheap and it'll be in the shop anyway. But just trying to baby her out. All right. Wendell, if I go home and do a live, as soon as I go home with some bourbon, those things get crazy, man, because that whiskey, that bourbon will hit a little bit different when you get home. When you get that first drink, like I'd say after a while, first of all, I don't drink like I used to anyway, just because, I don't know, but that stuff, like that first day or the first time I drink or whatever, boy, that stuff, like I never used to really feel it. Like normally if I'm at home and I'm drinking whiskey, I might have a few drinks here and there, but I never feel it really. But when I get home that first time, boy, that stuff kicking. All right, Slowpoke Dave Ramsey preaches that model to pay cash for everything after you pay off your debts. I'm about 6 months from being debt-free except for a mortgage. You know what? I just got some debt, and you wouldn't believe how far my credit dropped just in getting this debt. My credit was 833. One was 824, one was 833. I got a car loan just to, I was gonna pay cash for it. I was like, let me just get a loan on it. I'm gonna pay it off anyway because I'd paid off my wife's car that we just bought within like 6 months. But then I did that, and then got an Amazon credit card because I bought that jumper box, that little one I was showing, and that was like $300. And they're like, if you get a Amazon Visa, you'll get like $150 off. So I did it for that, right? And the points on that thing are excellent. As a matter of fact, I might just start using that as my primary card. But between doing all that, I think my scores went down to like, now I only really know the car dealership told me what my scores were when I bought the last car, so that's probably more accurate. But they still, even if they only dropped 20 points, that was a lot of, but they dropped like more than that. And it was like, it's because new debt, and obviously the loan I just paid off on my wife's car didn't show up yet and all this other kind of stuff. But anyway, it dropped a lot. But really, it's like being debt free is definitely the way to go. Range took his turkey out of 165 internal. If I remember correct, that's right. But it's been so long since I cooked a turkey, I wouldn't know. I say you need to keep more than 75% of your profit just in case something does happen, because it absolutely will happen, at least until your truck is paid off. I used to save, when I had a payment on my lease, I used to put aside 20 cents a mile, which worked out to be $400 to $600. Then I changed it to just a flat 600, I think, or five or 600. And then when my truck got paid off, I went to $1,100 a week. Then I went to $1,300 a week. And then Trucking Life, my Filipino wife, he came in and said he had like, because I posted how much I had in my emergency fund. He told me what he had, and I was like, okay, I got to step it up. So I just stepped it up to $1,500 a week just because I'm a little fucking like competitive sometimes when it comes to shit like that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Being regional, my fuel's always under 1K. Sometimes I don't even really look at that shit. The way I look at it is I look at my, I've always looked at it like this. When I had a truck payment, let's say I did $5,000 that week. I said, okay, $5,000, I'm going to make between $2,200 and $2,600. Then now I do the same thing. $5,000, if I make $5,000 or $6,000, whatever it is, divided by 2, and then I add another $1,300 to it. So if I did $5,000, it's going to be $2,500. Add another $1,300 on it. That's where I'm going to be. All right. All right. 6282, peace out. Chroma rims 25. How does the Audi run? Man, it runs good. It's hard, like, it's a lot smoother, obviously. My last truck was a Dodge Hemi Ram. So it obviously rides better, all that kind of stuff. The car is more convenient just getting into places and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as the way it drives, that car, who knows what it's going to look like when I get back home. Because I told my wife to drive it half the time. But that car looked brand new. And it went to the Audi shop. They're like, man, this car's perfect. You might need some tires. And I was like, I don't know about that. We'll see. All right, Wendell, am I going to buy another truck when mine is up? Or are you going to start a new lease after 20? All right, let's see. Are you going to buy out your truck? My truck's already paid off, Wendell. So my truck is paid off. So Prime has a lease and a lease purchase. I did the lease purchase. So relatively, the payments are the same. Actually, they're about $100 less a week on the lease purchase, but you have to put down $8,000 to $14,000, and then when you've made that third year's worth of payments, there's a balloon payment of $100, which really isn't the case because they've been setting aside some money all along in case you defaulted on the lease, so you actually get that money back. So essentially, when you pay off a lease, you're really getting, you have $100 balloon payment, but you really probably have about $3,500, $4,000 sitting in an account that's going to get paid back to you, if that makes sense. All right, let's see. Oh, there's always somebody make me feel like I'm old as I am. What's up, Unc? Nothing, man. I'm just out here chilling out here at the Quick Trip in Oak Grove, Missouri. All right, Nick was only able to save 75% because I was single and living in a truck and had no bills, just cell phone and storage building, but I was able to save a lot fast, and it got me out of trouble. Man, I know a lot of people, I speak to more people at Prime than anywhere. I mean, I do speak to other people. If you watch my man Tim Travels, he just did a video about one of our friends that had an owl hit his truck, and he almost flipped his truck when that happened. So I talked to other people, but I talked to a lot of people at Prime that, I can speak of at least a couple company drivers that have, within 3 years, put $100,000 in their bank. So that was pretty good. Rich, I'm about to go to sleep. I'm not going to be up. Romaine, we're talking about this trucker civil war, man. This shit's got to end, man. It's embarrassing. It's a bad look for us. Let's all just stop talking about all this shit. I was just talking about this, man. I was like thinking, man, would people in the mortgage business be talking about this shit? Man, I'm in-house sales. I'm out-house sales. Man, I work for a direct lender. Man, I work at a bank. Man, I work at a broker. All this has got to end. And some of it isn't that big of a deal, but I don't know. Anyway, I know this is off topic. Me and the wife having a debate about a house. I told her a house is a depreciating asset because we live in it compared to owning a house and getting some tenants. I would always say buy a personal property first. It's not a depreciating asset because you have to live somewhere anyway, right? So I'd just say, but then again, there are people that do shit different. They're, different when it comes to that. So owning property in general over the long run is going to be kind of a no-lose situation. But tenants are like, having tenants is like having drivers. You know what I mean? Like if you own a trucking company and you have drivers working for you, it's not as easy to understand what their long-term goals are, how long they're going to be there, all that kind of stuff. When I rented out my places, I kind of tried to trap them. You know what I mean? Like I kept my rent so low that it was almost hard for them to go find a place that was equivalent to it, or even if they wanted to buy a house, because usually you could buy a house and the payment's gonna be less than if you're renting and all that kind of stuff. So I kept my rent low, and what that did for me was I had relatively no turnover. My son just moved into my condo, and before he moved in there, I had the guy that moved out. He lived there from 2008 So 2008 to 2025, and the person that lived there before that lived there from 2005 to 2008. And then I had a townhouse where I had somebody, like, I was renting shit for like 20 something years and only had like 4 people, like total, maybe 5. I'd have to really think about it. They say the prime balloon payment is upfront disguised as a down payment. Here's what it is. And essentially, if you're putting down let's just talk about $14,000 down. Let's say that you just came and started doing a lease purchase, so you're putting down 14,000. Essentially, that down payment pays for the APU. Is the way I looked at it, because when you're making a payment on that lease, it's $100 less a month than what a regular lease would be. So every week they still put money aside into a tire fund. You can't use it for that. So in 3 years, once that stuff is over with, you have a $100 balloon payment, but you're getting back like $3,500, $4,000, something like that. After that, listen, we could debate a bunch of things. One thing we can't debate is the money coming in once you have a truck that's paid off. That's like essentially it's like getting a $6,000 a month raise right off the bat. So the beginning of the year, it's like, okay, I made $60,000 before day one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done, and I've never really been debating, because I've always said most people need to be company anyway that are in this business, just because I don't think a lot of people that are in trucking came out. Like, if you were to tell me, you know what, if you want to take the average truck driver, should the average, and I wanted to compare them to people that came out of the business I came in before, I would honestly say 100% of the people that were in my field before this should be leasing trucks. Whereas now in this business, maybe 40%. Why? Because the mindset's a whole lot different. Like, you will never, ever hear, whether it's on the company side, lease side, owner op side, you will never hear anybody that came out of my field that really did that work. I'm not talking about somebody who's in for a year, 2 years, or nothing like that. But anybody who's been in mortgages and banking and all, you will never hear anybody blaming some shit on somebody else. The broker, the fleet manager advertising this, that. You never will ever hear that coming out of their mouth. Tito's and soda, what's up from Chattanooga? So anyway, yeah, so I'm not saying everybody needs to do a lease purchase or lease, or I stand by a lease purchase. I'm not even going to talk about the lease. I don't think if I take a long, myself, if I'm looking at a long-term view, there's no way I can match up that money after the 3, even before. I've never fucking had problems with, like, this whole thing about this whole debate is juvenile, and how it even became a debate, I don't understand. But my long-term view was to not have stress, and that could be being home as much as I wanted to be home, not having any payments, all this kind of stuff. Like that, I'm exactly where I need to be now. 2.5 years from now, or whenever, when I have to take my truck off the fleet, now we might have a different conversation, because I may not want to go. Like, I should have enough money in the bank to buy another truck cash if I want to. And I'm not talking about just my bank. I'm saying my emergency fund, or whatever you want to call it. I should be able. I'm putting $1,500 a week into that emergency fund. So, but in 3 years or 2.5, whatever, am I going to want to do that again? Or am I just going to be like, you know what? Let me sell the truck, put some money in my pocket, and then do some other shit. I mean, I don't know what that would look like at that point. Maybe go company, or not necessarily company, maybe run under somebody else's fleet, where I could be a little bit more flexible on time, because I'm coming at the end of my career. I'm not looking to, like, it's your motivations change as you get older. 412, what's up, man? We were just talking about you getting hit by that owl out in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, man. All right, 1372, 1500 a week in an emergency fund, man. I need that discipline, man. It took a long time to get to that discipline, and it took a total different change in mindset where, and I did this by looking at people. Man, we're gonna get into this when we talk about how I got into banking, but I started dealing. I'm just gonna kind of touch on it in a minute. I started dealing with all these people that had money, real money, and there were people that made a lot of money, and they were driving like new BMWs, Mercedes, all this stuff. And then there were the people that may have made a ton of money, or maybe they were retired or whatever, but they had this same Buick Regal for like 15 years, you know what I mean? And you run their credit, and they ain't got no fucking, maybe they have a credit card they run their bills through, but they ain't got a bunch of shit like that. And it changed my perspective on what was actually successful, because then you started being able to see, like, one of the dumbest things in the world is these fucking gold diggers, and they base who they think is a wealthy man on what their car is like and all that. Most of the time it's a car, especially if it's like Atlanta, but on what their car looks like or whatever. And if I was to give any gold digger advice on who to go after, find the guy that is smart, that ain't got a fucking car payment. Maybe he's driving around a Honda Accord. I mean, I don't know, but I changed my view on that over time, because I started seeing who really had money, and they weren't necessarily the people living in the best neighborhoods, like. And I know this. My boy lives in a neighborhood. My best friend, houses are probably $1.5 million, $1.75 million, something like that. And I know, because I've tried to do a loan for one of them back in the day, where they really set it financially. And then I've, seen people, I've heard of some of the struggles those people have. Whereas, there's people in lesser neighborhoods that I'll throw my dad into this if I'm going to throw it in there. He's been driving old ass Mercedes. Like, I think he still has a car or a truck that I sold him back in 96, maybe. He might still have that car. And he's had like he was really into like rentals and all this kind of stuff. And he was an executive at IBM, never got dragged into like, this is what, maybe earlier on, because I do remember in his like 30s he might have been like that. But you would never look at him and be like, yeah, he's got some dough. You know what I mean? You never be able to look at him and tell that. The guy that you guys watch my channel that owns the mortgage company I work for, we did a video together. You would never be able to look at him and be like, that guy has all that money. Why? Because he lives below his means, low stress, all that stuff. Anyway. Hey, Marine, I tried to contact you. I'm back. What do you mean you tried to contact me? It's easy to contact me. I got my email in the description of the video, or somewhere in there. All right, 412 on the turnpike going to North Carolina. Man, I'm going to be relaxing so hard. And you know what? Here's the thing that really, if I had to say what the biggest asset is and what really made it possible is having a wife that doesn't feel like she needs to have a bunch of shit. Now, I will say she still spends probably a little bit more than I do, but still very frugal, all that kind of stuff. Back in the days when we were digging ourselves out and everything, she was, you know, driving $3,500 cars and so those of you guys just came in. I got a little heated because I got somebody out here trying to say I was lying and, you know, all this different shit. And I'm out here promoting the lease for Prime and nobody's making it. No, first of all, that's some bullshit in the first place. Second place is I've never promoted the Prime lease. I've said what I thought the lease purchase at Prime. I don't think there's a better way to buy a truck out there financially than that. Numbers wise, I've had people go to Peterbilt Freightliner dealerships and see what it took to buy it. Now, some people could say, well, you could pay one payment a month or something like that and it's cheaper, but fuck, why am I going to want to finance a truck for 6 years just so it's paid off right when we're at like 700,000 miles? I just don't get it. So anyway, that's one thing I will stand by. And I'm not even promoting that. I'm saying if you're already leasing and you're already successful leasing at Prime, that right there, personally, I don't think I could be in a least stressful situation than that. Maybe, okay, so they do kind of owe me a little bit, like I just can't take off 2 months. But from a standpoint, like I don't got to worry about brokers. I don't got to worry about this. If I break down, I don't even got to call them. I just do the shit over the text. I get the attention like when I need attention. Like to me, it's very low stress. So to me, it works. That I will promote if you're doing well in a regular lease. I stand on that. That I will stand on. All this other stuff, like, you know, you could buy trucks wherever, but still, the eventual price. And I've sent my figures over to what's that trucking guy, the guy from Minnesota. I've sent over some of my figures to him just so he could see. And the purchase price was on there, weekly payments on there, and total of all the payments and all on there. It's indisputable because I compare those numbers to when Roadrunner and I went and bought hers. Now it's a little different. Hers is a little bit newer, but stripped down, payments lower, finance forever, you know. But there's 1,000 different ways to skin a cat. My way is not the only way. Yeah, so I just put up a video about Loomis. What was that? Loomis? Anyway, about the referrals. That wasn't taking no shots at anybody like that. That's because, shit, if I'm going to start getting blamed for chasing after referrals, because that's another thing this person said, that I was just out getting referrals. Fuck, I don't even know if I've got a referral with, like, in the last, like, maybe 2 years or some shit like that. Like, it's been so long since I got a referral. I can't even believe it. And I'm just like, you know, maybe I'm leaving some money on the table. So now I need to be out there pushing that shit. It's a lot different for me, you know, whether you know, it's I would not feel bad talking about some referral shit. So, I mean, I've been here for damn near my 6th year leasing is coming up on the 10th of December. But there's people out here now that have been at their companies for less than 3 months that are pushing referrals. And you know what? If you believe in it, there's nothing wrong with it. I just never really chose to outwardly do that because I didn't want to be somebody that was getting accused of it. But if I'm getting accused of it, I might as well get to the money. You know what I mean? Semper Tyrannis, what's up? I'm just out here on my last live before I go home. I was going to do a video, and I was just like, man, I don't know if I could do that. But it was just so refreshing because I was so fucking tired of all this like shit going on with truck drivers and this and that. And, you know, for the most part, some motherfuckers don't even know anything about the situation that they're talking about. And somebody just happened to say, how did you get into trucking? And I was like, man, this is a great time for me to talk about something other than trucking. And I've spoke about it a little bit, but I could really get deep into it. And I was like, man, that would be refreshing to have a conversation about something other than truck driving. So I'm going to do that when I get home. Because in all honesty, it almost goes back. If somebody says, you know, Lyle, how'd you end up in trucking? It really almost goes back to 1995-ish. Was like when the groundwork was being kind of laid. Lyle, honestly, people never talk about the paperwork side of trucking too. It's a paperwork that makes the world go round. Man, what's going on, Tim Travels? Yeah, the paperwork side of things, I don't even know what kind of paperwork you're talking about, but man, that paperwork that I was having to do with 4 trucks, that shit right there was like, that was yeah, definitely that. Tim Travels, what's going on? I need to give you a call like a little bit more frequently because my speech I'm losing words and my vocabulary is probably dropped about 15% since I got into trucking. So I might have to call you just to brush up on some new words and stuff. And I'm not even joking around. There are times, I've even had it during this live, where there have been things that I wanted to say and I'm searching for the word and it's there, but I just don't use those words anymore. So it's like, I just got dumb, man. That's all it is. I need to like start reading a dictionary or something. Have a word of the day or something. It's definitely use it or lose it, because I'm telling you. I forget what phrase I was trying to say, but it was a phrase I used to always say, and like, I mean, I know it now, so I'm telling you know, but it's a phrase that I used to say, and I'm having this little conversation, and then I'm just like looking for it, and I can't fucking find the words. And I'm like, man. So I don't necessarily look at it. See, I'm about to lose a word now. I don't try to look at it as I'm becoming stupid. I've just become a little bit more economic with my vocabulary. Yeah, Terry, I'm running out to Cheyenne, Wyoming, dropping this load off. good ass load. And luckily, the fact that I happened to network with different people, I talked to Big H Trucking. Some of you old school people know Big H Trucking, and he was like, "Man, they're getting hammered up on 80. It might be gone by the time you go through there, but there still might be some leftovers. Just stay on 70." So I'm gonna spend the money, hit them tolls on 70. I might even take the 470 loop in Denver just to take it. And anyway, that's what's up. Would you ever lease on to F2F? I never really looked into F2F. Son of, I'm gonna get back to that F2F here in a second. But this comment, 1372, something I always wondered about trucking is why do truckers hate successful truckers at carriers they didn't succeed at? Well, because that there's an agenda. So first of all, let's just look at it like this. I can't look at it from a trucking standpoint or a mortgage standpoint because I never had these things. But let's say back in the days when I sold cars back in the 90s, if I quit a dealership, one of my agendas is to make myself feel better, is to talk about how fucking bad the dealership was. Man, they didn't have any traffic. It took like 5 hours to go through finance, this, that, whatever it could be, because it's easier for me to, my agenda is to not make me look like I'm the failure. There was a reason why I failed. So I kind of look at it the same way. And again, a lot of the shit I talk about in trucking is shit that I've made mistakes with on my own. I think that's why that happens. Now, as far as F2F, the only places I've looked into, and I never called them or anything like that, but back when Prime has been ebbing and flowing with some of their shit in terms of, I think what Prime wants to do is they want to swim, but they don't want to get wet. And sometimes that manifests itself as it manifests itself like this. We want to train all these drivers and shit, and then they get surprised when new drivers do new driver shit. So you can't have it both ways. And sometimes what that does is it puts people that have been there at Prime doing this shit, that have been doing it for a while, making everything so fucking redundant and idiot proof and all this kind of stuff. And so anyway, that's kind of what pushed me to even look elsewhere. So I looked at national carriers. I think I looked at Tyson. Mainly I was looking at places where I could lease on, where I didn't have to have my own numbers, none of that stuff. And so I looked at, I think I was more looking at national carriers than Tyson, but I did look at Tyson. I looked at Crete. Wasn't too impressed with that part of it. I looked at Swift, and again, I don't need to make all the money in the world, but Swift is convenient. They got a terminal right there by my house. You know what I mean? So that was important to me. I've looked into just shutting the whole fucking thing down, and just being a yard dog somewhere. So, but I've never really looked into F2F. All right, 1372 didn't succeed at Prime, but I succeeded in heavy haul at a smaller carrier. Everybody has their niche. That's what I'm saying. There's a guy that just did a video. I mentioned him in a video previous to this. He was at Prime, went to national carriers, went to Hellweg, he might have gone to even anyway, he went to a bunch of different places. And he left Hellweg, and Romanian truckers doing well over at Hellweg. So sometimes you just need to fall into that niche. I'm not sure I would work all that well at Hellweg. Everybody has their sweet spot where they want to be, and Prime just really works well for me from just a business standpoint. and a relationship standpoint. So I do more of the shit than I don't. I do a lot of shit I don't necessarily want to do just for relationship reasons. If that relationship ever broke down, I could be a little bit more selfish and probably be doing stuff more along lines of what I want, but I still gotta take care of the people that take care of me. All right, why don't you give a live on your take on mortgages for truckers? I did that a while back. I actually was at my I didn't do a live. I'm not sure if I did a live, but I was at my old company and I did a video with the owner of that company. So we did do that. This is maybe about a year ago, year and a half ago. 412, no prime, no Christmas bonus for prime. They're supposed to have a Christmas bonus. They said they were working on it. I don't care because I'm not going to be out for Christmas. I'm going to be sitting at home, like, chilling. Like heavy haul, that one, I couldn't do it. Here's what works for me is that right there, like heavy haul and all that flatbed shit. You could tell me that I would be guaranteed $6,000 a week take home or whatever. It could be 7,000. That's not going to work for me. I'm like, that's too much. You could tell me I could make, 5,000 a week just running, Northeast. Ain't gonna work for me. Peace of mind is half of this shit to me. Like, there's just certain things that I just did a video where I said, you know what, I'm feeling a little off right now, and luckily I was at where I was at. But had I been in the Northeast having to deal with that shit, I don't know if I could handle it. You know what I mean? I just want something nice and easy. That's what works for me with Prime. I don't have to worry about like toll booths. I don't got to worry about like fuel and sending in receipts and doing like it's set. Like if I break down on the side of the road, I don't got to make a phone call. I can do everything by the app. I don't got to worry about the tension coming in. Like it's so easy, and that's where I'm at in my life. Like when I was doing mortgages, that's a different story. I had a little bit more mental bandwidth to deal with some of this stuff until I didn't. So if you were like, wow, you could make way more money being an owner operator, and I'd be like, now I got to get taxes or tags, IFTA dollars. Man, I can't do it. Like, I think that I'm very, I don't know. I can't overwhelm myself with a lot of bullshit. And that's where, hey, Prime does suck for a lot of people. But there's a lot of people out there and throwing shot. Like I said, all this shit needs to come to an end. It really has been embarrassing me that the trucking space has kind of gone into this. But I've almost felt myself having to defend positions I haven't really ever like planted my flag on. And just from to be a mortgage banker, sales, all that kind of stuff, you got to be cocky to some degree. So when I got somebody talking reckless to me, and I know I got more money just chilling, sitting over here than they got total, to have somebody talking down to me like that brings that shit out in me, and that's not where I want to be. So Prime does suck for some people. Trust me, I know it. I've heard people whining about that shit for I don't know how long. But the people I talk to, some of them are on here. I don't. Again, it's the company I keep, I guess. All right, off topic, but 81 to 75 or 7. I would, off topic, 81 to 75 or 77, 64. Man, I'd have to take a look at a map, but 81 to 75, and you're going to North Carolina, from North Carolina to Indianapolis. Man, I love that 81. But 35 is going to take you through, what is that place in Virginia, West Virginia, Charleston or something? Man, I don't know, Slime Pack. I'd have to really take a look at the weather map and all that kind of stuff. Tim Travels, Prime is no different than any other trucking company. People think some other place will treat them better. Every company has screwed someone at some point. This is the main thing. Okay. And I'm going to talk about this in my video about what got me into trucking. And I've used this term because I think it was the most profound thing that a client ever told me when I was in banking. And he was like, if you're always chasing after money, you can't run that fast. And when I was in the car business, I was like the average truck driver for a good, from like 91 to 90, late 98. It was like, oh, somebody leave here and they go over to, they go to Audi and shit like that. Man, this is so great over here. And, these customers, and this, that, and that. And then you go work there a while, and then somebody else would leave and go down here, and, they go work at Ford. They're like, man, this shit, man, you don't make as much money per car, but you're doing this. Like, you're just like leaving and going. Like, at some time, it's just stay somewhere, plant your flag, and be like consistent. Like, I can't even imagine having a family or having a wife that is, I'm old school, kind of like that. I feel like I got to take care of shit. Like, I can't be like, oh, you know what? Well, I'm working here today, or I'm working there today, or what? There has to be some consistency. And sometimes you just got to love the one you're with. All right. Well, if you're trying to reach me via email, you can send me the email or whatever. We could send me your number and we could talk or whatever, but I'm about to take my ass to sleep tonight, or just when I get off here. Slime Pack, help me. I've been debating for the last hour. If I'm going to say that I had to choose one, I would probably take 81 to 75. Just off the top. How many miles do you drive roughly a week? You know what? I don't know. I don't really track miles. I don't track miles. Everybody, man, I got all this money on my mother. I don't track miles. But let me see. I can look. Well, no, I can't, because this is gonna be a short week. I don't know. I don't track miles. And hey, let's stop with this. Like, I appreciate it. But man, don't be sending no fucking money, man. $64 to $35 is, that's okay. I'm just not sure what the weather's like down there, and I've done that route a ton. Again, I'd have to really be looking at the weather and everything out there. Yeah, 64 West Virginia mountains. You're not gonna miss any of the mountains over there either way. But hey, hippie greetings from Los Angeles, Texas. What's going on? The thing that gets me upset about Prime Inc. is, man, send me an email. I don't see no email. I don't see no email. My email. Oh, wait, there you go. Prime candidate. Good afternoon. First of all, I'm going to send you I'm going to call you, but I'm going to send you my number as well. I'm not one of these people that you need to be like paying to do shit and all this kind of stuff. A lot of the good friends I have on here are just people that I met on YouTube, and it wasn't, it could have been about a question they had about something or whatever, or, in 412's case, he was like ripping people up and we became friends. But if you're going to be up a little while longer, man, I'm going to give you a call. Plus, I'm going to send you my phone number just in case. But that whole consultation bullshit, I thought that stuff had gone away about 5 years ago when people were like out here charging people money for, average advice and stuff like that. Man, don't do that shit. All right. Wendell, you're exactly who I was thinking about when it came to that asking for money and shit. Georgia Trucker is agreeing with me. Better to go 81. A Marine. Anyway, I don't care if somebody wastes my time. Half the time that I'm talking to people, right? I'm fucking driving. I'm not doing anything anyway. So it's not a waste of my time. It's just a conversation, right? So, a lot of the people that I talk to about these things become people that, we have one conversation and, done. But a lot of these people, if Ed's in here or 412's in here, Tim Travels, a lot of these people that we spoke about one little thing or whatever, we've been talking for months, years in some cases. So no, don't do no. There's no reason to do anything like that. And I think I punched a hole in the bottom of this damn. Yep. So anyway, that's about it. I'm about to get off here and give old boy a call, and I don't have to leave out of here anytime soon. I can deliver this load anytime on Monday from midnight to midnight. Now, I'm going home, so I could deliver at midnight and be home or whatever, but I'll probably just deliver like 7 in the morning when the sun's all up and everything. Kind of go from there. But anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Truck and Transportation. I'm about to get out of here, take my ass to sleep, deliver this load. Do got that video when I go home where I'm going to be talking about what got me into trucking with a little bit more detail, stuff like that. Because you know what? That's what I would want. I'd really like to see a video from Romaine and well, I know Tim Travis, some of these people I talk to, but I guess the people I don't know talk about what they did before they got into trucking, like what brought them here. That interests me more than why my company is better than yours and why you ain't making no money and all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm about to get off here and call Devon. Anyway, comment, subscribe, and next time you see me, we're definitely going to be hitting that bourbon up. So those are always the best lives. When I got that first drink at home, I'm out.